You're watching WHO TV 13 Des Moines, your 24-hour news source. This is Newscenter 13 at 10.
Good evening. I'm Jim Strickland in tonight for Scott Pope. It looked like negotiations finally might be getting somewhere on the budget, but then folks from the White House walked out of the meeting.
White House Chief of Staff John Sununu was among them. Sununu says negotiations couldn't continue since Democrats had too many differences among themselves. Now, Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell claims that that's just not true, and Democrats are unified. The abrupt end to today's negotiations came amid signs of compromise. Bob Franken brings us up to date.
When he arrived at the Capitol, he was a smiling John Sununu, but the sneer had returned to his face when he and the other top administration officials stormed out of their meetings with Republican congressional leaders to say the talks had broken down because the Democrats weren't cooperating, and he was going to tell the president. Well, apparently, he didn't really mean the talks had broken down, and the Republican leaders and Democratic leaders hastily gathered to decide what to do next.
Like I said, they broken off. We're all here.
And we saw them take 6 deep dish pizzas into the room, so they obviously mean business. The flare-up occurred after Republicans offered a new hike in the income tax rate for well-off Americans, 31%. Not enough, countered Democrats, who proposed an additional 7.5% surtax on income over $1 million a year, plus a 4% cut in deductions on more than $100,000, plus a 5-cent a gallon gasoline tax increase.
Our offer was to tax the rich, and our last offer taxed them more, over $1 million in the Democrats' last offer, but to do it in a fashion that removes some of their loopholes and deductions rather than raising the rates.
We're disappointed that we weren't able to reach an agreement by now. We believe that we should continue our efforts.
And that's what they seem to be doing, working a budget deal without the White House negotiators physically there, although they do seem to be there in spirit because the president can veto any budget package he doesn't like. Bob Franken, CNN, Capitol Hill.
Of course, midnight Wednesday is the deadline for a new budget, or the government will shut down.
A year and a half after 47 of her men died, the USS Iowa will go from the seas to the shelf. The Iowa, one of only 4 giant battleships the Navy has, will be decommissioned on Friday. This will be the 3rd time BB-61 has been decommissioned since it was put into service during World War II. The Iowa drew national attention when an explosion inside gun turret number 2 killed 47 sailors. The Navy spends $35 million a year to operate the ship. Repairing the crippled turret would have taken another $13 million. A Des Moines man in surgery in critical condition tonight after a bizarre series of events on the east side. Police say 30-year-old Michael Benshoff was on his motorcycle trying to chase down a car which had just been involved in a hit-and-run accident in Grandview Park. Benshoff then collided with a second car which was also in pursuit of the hit-and-run driver. Benshoff now listed in critical condition at Iowa Methodist. He is in surgery, officials tell us. A Marshalltown couple is dead after a crash late last night on Highway 14. Authorities say 51-year-old Paul Eulenberg and his 49-year-old wife Benita were killed when their car smashed into a car head-on driven by 19-year-old Jeremy Scott. Scott and his passenger are both hospitalized.
Fender benders on I-235 have authorities upset, and they're warning motorists to use more caution around the construction areas. Now, with the construction, traffic gets backed up on I-235 enough as it is on a Sunday afternoon, but complicate that with an accident like this one, and you end up sitting in a jam for a long time. Police say luckily no one was hurt, but the area of the freeway around 63rd Street is a real trouble spot. The Des Moines man accused of running a puppy mill has not been able to sell the dogs as promised, and he's going to ask for an extension. As Newscenter 13 first reported last week, Leonard Smith was charged with cruelty to animals following a raid on his property. Smith said he was given a week to sell the puppies, but that wasn't long enough. Smith has nearly 200 dogs in cages in his shed.
A tragic fire in Cleveland, Ohio. 5 children are dead. The children were trapped in their upstairs bedrooms when the fire broke out early this morning. Officials say all died of smoke inhalation. A woman and her son survived by jumping from a second-story window. Firefighters attempting to get to the children were driven back by the flames. The dead ranged in age from 2 years to 12. In California's San Bernardino National Forest, firefighters battling a 1,200-acre blaze, winds of up to 50 miles an hour, helping to spread that fire. Officials say some campers and hunters have been evacuated, but no homes are in the immediate vicinity. 600 firefighters are on the scene. 2 are reported injured. The fire started last night. The cause still unknown. Not the forest, but the wetlands getting the attention in Iowa this weekend. It is duck hunting season. But it's not like it used to be. The number of duck hunters is down substantially. And Newscenter 13's Mary Mills says it's causing a few concerns for the Department of Natural Resources.
It's the first weekend of the duck hunting season in central Iowa, and some are getting off to a better start than others.
Miserable.
Did you get anything yesterday?
No.
No?
Spotting waterfowl isn't the only challenge of the day. There are considerably fewer duck hunters than years past.
Oh, 5 years ago, this road used to be lined with cars and other places, and it just, anymore, opening day, there's a lot of cars, but after that, people just quit hunting.
According to the Department of Natural Resources, the number of waterfowl stamps and licenses issued has dropped drastically over the past 15 years, from a high of 50,000 to just over half that this year.
For the last 5 to 7 years, the number of ducks has declined due to poor breeding populations and drought in the prairie pothole region of the northern central United States and Canada. And populations are down throughout the Midwest, and therefore when the ducks are down, so go the hunters.
The hunters say there are other factors as well, such as the cost and the new restrictions.
It has got some pretty good money wrapped up in it with the boat and decoys.
We've got it down to now where you can't shoot hardly any ducks. And the guys won't go through all the hassle when they can go out and shoot 3 pheasants, and now they can come down and shoot 3 ducks.
Whatever the reason, the decrease in the number of duck hunters has a direct impact on the DNR. Its Fish and Wildlife Service is funded entirely through the sale of licenses and stamps. Now, deer and turkey hunting are up, but not enough to make much of a difference.
Facilities and those, fuel prices and personnel, those expenses continue to go up, but when hunter numbers stay the same or go down, then obviously it has an adverse effect on the department.
What's the answer? Maybe an increase in license fees. It's never a popular request, but the DNR says something needs to be done to make up the shortfall. Near Runnels, Mary Mills, Newscenter 13.
The DNR proposes increases every 2 years, beginning in 1992. The first would raise the cost of a license from $8.50 to $13. Of course, it's all up to the state legislature. And their members, by the way, have denied similar requests in the past 2 years.
International news when we come back. Revenge in Jerusalem as 3 Israelis are stabbed by an Arab.
And Steve Martin doing his best to keep the morale high among the troops.
More violence in Jerusalem today. An Arab stabbed 3 Israelis to death, apparently in revenge for the police killings of 21 Arabs 13 days ago. Now, police did arrest the man believed to be the killer. The victims were a female soldier, an off-duty policeman, and a civilian. Officials say the police officer was stabbed when his gun jammed while he was chasing the attacker. The stabbings touched off flashes of anti-Arab violence all over the city.
Reports out of Baghdad tonight say Saddam Hussein is making promises about releasing some British citizens. Former British Prime Minister Edward Heath was in Baghdad today, pleading with Hussein for help in releasing sick and elderly British hostages held there. Reuters news agency is now saying that Hussein has promised he will release an unspecified number of British hostages. In Saudi Arabia, as Operation Desert Shield drags on, the troops may not be getting any relief from the heat, but they are receiving some comic relief from Steve Martin. Stan Bernard with that.